stage. That's what I need to do. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Add to stage. That was the little button I was missing with my new system here. Well, folks, this is Kenny with Just the Right Angle. Stage. That's what I need to do. There we go. And now that works. Sorry for the little hiccup. But folks, this is the loser I want to talk about. It is Chris Caldwell. He lost. He lost on March 3rd during the elections. Chris Caldwell is the big consultant who, for all intents and purposes, along with Chase Duggar and a few other hacks within the Republican Party, run that organization. And they have tried to kick conservatives out of that organization as best they can. And they've been partially successful, at least in kicking conservatives out, and they've been usually winning elections. Well, that all ended. Here's another picture of this guy, why he needs to go. There he is with Bill Clinton. He's just as leftist as Bill Clinton. He hates conservatives and freedoms just as much, but he's infested in the Republican Party. He doesn't have an official title, but he does show up at the county committees and he's there to give orders. He can shut down a state committee if he wishes to. He has that power. He shut down the winter committee of not last year, but the year before, when they were halfway through their agenda. And during another incident, he actually was able to shut down debate on an issue regarding rules that we had tried to pass in the convention. So, folks, just want to do a quick recap on what's happened here. We can go to the Arkansas legislative website. Overall, Republicans won statewide. Democrats, of course, had their primary race. But it's most likely going to be Republicans that win these statewide races. Colchester defeated Kristen Olson. But here is the particular race that we want to focus on. This was the campaign for Secretary of State. Brian Norris, Kim Hammer, and Kathy Hardin Harrison. And in this race, Kim Hammer was the one favored by Chris Caldwell and the elite establishment. And of course, Sarah Huckabee Sanders campaigned for him. And he had a huge chance of winning because he was a former state rep. He had a fairly long history in the Arkansas legislature, so his name was well known. He had name recognition, as mentioned before, and he had most of the money. So he was supposed to win this race. And instead, he actually, not only did he not get 50% to avoid a runoff, but he actually lost a little bit to the conservative in the race, Brian Norris. And Kathy Hardin Harrison, she's kind of in the middle of the road. The main issue in this Secretary of State race was paper ballots, whether to go to that or to use the machines that have failed us before. That was the main argument in that race. And in that particular race, Chris Caldwell lost. And explain what's happening during that last few days before this election was done, before March 3rd. It was actually February 25th is when Chris Caldwell set up the political action committee known as Arkansas Conservatives. And in that action committee, the day afterward were a bunch of texts that were designed to slander Brian Norris. And they weren't even so much pro Kim Hammer or pro Kathy Harrison. They just said that basically hate Brian Norris. They accused him of erasing freedom. Let me see if I can find that post for those who don't know what I'm talking about, because I don't think I captured an image of it. But it was a post that was designed to slander Brian Norris. And the intent was for votes to go to either Kim Hammer or Kathy Harrison. And it had the opposite effect. It backfired horribly. People were outraged over it, rightfully so. And I think what it ended up happening is giving Brian Norris at least the lead in this election. Now, this election is going to happen March 31st. There'll be what's known as a runoff. Whoever does not get 50% in an election, it goes to a runoff election. Let me remove this image for just a bit and see if I can go to Facebook where I can show the aforementioned issue. And this is still going on. There is still other races going on. There's runoff elections for, I believe, county judges. Let me see if I can scroll down to where this incident occurred. I think here's one post of it. This is by Republican Patriots of Arkansas. This shows the paperwork filed. Let me see if it shows the actual incident in question. Not quite. There's a Sarah Huckabee Sanders sitting behind Chris Caldwell before, and there he is hanging out with the kiddos. And there's the paperwork of the committee that was formed. But I was looking for the actual text that was sent in and of itself. If I can type correctly. Here's one. This is posted by Lori Justice. Here's the actual text. Senator Kim Hammer and Judge Harrison standing with President Trump to secure our elections and Constitution. Trump has had nothing to say about any of this race. And then it says Brian Norris empowering the radical left to destroy our Constitution and erase our freedom. And it's based on absolutely nothing. It's just slander done by a coward who has been stabbing conservatives in the back for years. Conservatives within the Republican Party of Arkansas have been drummed out. They've been forced to leave. They have been falsely accused of breaking rules, sometimes rules that were literally made up on the fly illegally, and then of course, changed later on. And Jan Morgan talked about this post as well. Here's her take on it. And here's her entire message here. So this was a slanderous text that was sent out again February 28th, 27th, 28th when it was sent out. And the people said, no, we're not going to accept that. Also, what happened was a lot of Senate races were lost. There were 2 Senate races where, for more of the establishment, the Chris Caldwell, Chase Duggar GOP consultant class wanted to win. One was a state Senate District 10 right here, Ron Caldwell, and he ended up winning handedly. I mean, 70%. That's a beatdown. And then the other race, which I think was around here, where is Franklin County? No. I'm sorry, not Franklin County. It was against Brian King. Now, Brad Simon did win against Adam Watson, and this is the county where they're going to have the big jail. However, both of these candidates have said they're against Sarah Sanders' big gajillion, multi-billion-dollar prison scheme where they're trying to justify building a massive jail in a county where nobody wants it instead of expanding the jail system that we already have or putting it in places where people do want it. Now, here's another race where there was an attempt for the establishment to win. It was District 28, Brian King versus Bobby Ballinger. Brian King handily won this race easily. It wasn't even close. And so these were two races where Sarah Huckabee Sanders wanted to kick Arkansas senators out, and she lost. And then there is another race, if I can find where it is, where it was Blake Johnson. And oh my goodness, the cheesy ads from Blake Johnson are just ridiculous. Let me see if I can find some of those. I mean, this Blake Johnson tried to pretend like he was the greatest thing since sliced bread in terms of defeating China. I mean, he tooted his horn for all it was worth for the effort to kick China out of Arkansas, when in reality, China's still in Arkansas. And when Asa Hutchinson was piddling around with Chairman Xu of the Chinese Communist Party, Blake Johnson was nowhere near around. He was nowhere. Here he is. Here's some of his ads right here. Endorsed by Sarah Huckabee Sanders. He's been in the Senate 2 times, the Senate majority. He says, so you got to vote for him for that. He cut some taxes, although they could eliminate the income tax, but instead of nibbling on it. And he kicked China out. He kicked out communist China. And the person running against him was Jeremy Woolridge. And Jeremy Woolridge basically just beat Blake Johnson. And let me see if I can see the results for that. I forgot where he's. I'm trying to see which. It's District 21. Lawrence County is one of the counties here. But what I have to do with the Arkansas Secretary of State system is it doesn't quite show the county, the areas by district. So you have to find a county that the district's in. You can see it. So there it is. Yeah, so there he won that. He won one county, but Jeremy Woolridge won the other 3. And when you look at statewide, it's not what I was trying to do. And you get statewide on the counties, you see that Jeremy Woolridge won overall. And there's just a dominating vote there. And that's another Sarah Huckabee Sanders ally that was lost. Another ally that was lost to Sarah Huckabee Sanders was here in Drew. This was actually a state representative race. John Kyle Day defeated Missy Warlaw. And there's lots of other races where basically the establishment lost, and they lost handily. And it was because people are sick and tired of the establishment running things. They are sick and tired of this kind of garbage happening, where you get these cowardly consultant classes like Chris Caldwell, like JDC Consulting, who are really just puppets of organizations that have kept Arkansas in the negative for decades. The Meta, which is Facebook, that's Mark Zuckerberg's group. Chris Caldwell is a client for them. The Arkansas Association of County Judges, Cox Media, Entergy, Summit Utilities, which in some of these organizations have lobbyists for the Democrats. They probably did before too. And it's the same people that are running things there. And all they did is they got these consultants to sneak into the Republican Party or buy them off. Chris Caldwell was a volunteer for Bozeman for years, and get them to basically do their dirty work. And so what we need to do, what we want to do, is what the late Charlie Kirk did to the RNC and kick out the consultant class. There's Ronna McDaniel getting kicked out. That's what we need right there. We need Ronna McDaniel's types that are in the Republican Party kicked out. And I've heard, I don't know how many millions of dollars have been spent on some of these elections, but I guarantee you the conservatives were horribly, horribly outspent by the establishment class, and that's always has been. And there is another race I did want to talk about. I'll go ahead and share it here. This is from Val Emmons, but it's been imposed here. The Democrats are hooping and hollering about how they managed to replace a Republican for a state rep area. And this is in, first of all, this is in North Little Rock. And and apparently it was a big win. It was a big win. As a matter of fact, we can go back to the Secretary of State's website to see state rep results, Pulaski County. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, the Secretary of State only shows the primary results. It doesn't show the special election results. For that, you have to go to the Pulaski County Election Commission. So the way they did this, they had this weird thing where you had to get a second ballot to go out and vote. And then when you got that second ballot, you had to vote on Democrat versus Republican in District 70. It's been confusing. It's because there was a court case involving Arkansas Senate, the Arkansas Senate race. But anyway, here's the results of that. Democrat Alex Holloway defeated Republican Bo Renshaw. I know that Chase Duggar, one of the loser consultants that I've mentioned before, he was managing this campaign. So unfortunately, he's probably still going to get paid. But yeah, it was a dominating election, but there's two things. Number one, Democrats overwhelmingly, or Pulaski County has been a blue state for a long time. And secondly, there was a lot of confusion regarding this particular election. And thirdly, there was kind of an anti-Sarah Huckabee sentiment regarding the Republican primary. So a lot of people, then Bo Renshaw was a great, they may have liked Bo Renshaw, but they didn't like the attitude of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and particularly regarding this prison. And so it was a trifecta. And it was also poorly, and I can say this, Chase Duggar did a terrible job of managing Bo Renshaw's campaign. And there's just no nice way to say that. I mean, you barely got any messages from the guy, a text, anything, nothing like the effort to try to kick Brian Norris from being Secretary of State. There was no effort, nowhere near that. And so anyway, that's pretty much the results of that election. Let's remove that. Oops. Still getting a little bit used to this. Why am I not? Oh, it needs to be PNP. Oh, okay. Add this stage again. Add to stage is kind of still throwing me off here. But anyway, those are just kind of my rants about the election. I've got to get stuff to do. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When the wicked are destroyed, the people are glad. It's a paraphrase from the Bible. Find a way to get involved. Remember, March 31st, we're going to have another big election. I will try to do updates on